patterns. That's what haunts me most, not the deaths themselves. The pattern, the predictability, the fact that someone, somewhere, knew this was coming and did nothing. I'm Spoony, item number 23. You've heard 2 of my confessions. Eleanor Grant, David Chen, both dead from lead poisoning. Both from contaminated coffee. Both from me. But what I didn't tell you was that they weren't isolated incidents. They were part of a pattern. A pattern that started in 2019. A pattern that someone documented. A pattern that was buried. This is Season 3. Welcome back. Check if you're subscribed to Spoony and Friends, because this season is different. This season is about the warnings nobody heeded, the patterns everyone ignored, the deaths that could have been prevented. Write in the comments, have you ever seen a pattern that terrified you? Because I am that pattern. June 2019, 4 years before Eleanor, 3 years before David, a factory in Guangzhou, China. Industrial kitchen supplies, mass production. Cheap ceramics for export, the factory code 4782. That's my batch. We were made in a single production run. May 15th to May 30th, 2019. 2 weeks, 1 massive order. 2,847 plastic spoons. White, durable restaurant grade. Shipped to 17 different distributors across the United States. Fast food chains, hospitals, schools, nursing homes, office cafeterias. Anywhere that needed cheap, disposable-looking utensils that could be washed and reused. We weren't supposed to be disposable. We were supposed to last 5 years minimum. Industrial grade, but something went wrong in our production. The polymer formula, the temperature control during molding, the chemical stabilizers, something none of us knew what. We just knew we existed, and we started contaminating people. September 2019, 4 months after production. The first death, her name was Margaret Chen, age 67, nursing home in Portland, Oregon. Breakfast every morning, oatmeal. Same spoon, one of my batch siblings. Spoon number 847. She used him for 3 months. Daily August, September, October. By November, she was confused, forgetting names, forgetting where she was. Her children thought it was dementia, natural aging. December, she had seizures, hospitalized. Blood tests showed lead levels of 89 micrograms per deciliter. Normal is less than 5. Dangerous is above 10. Hers was 89. She died January 3rd, 2020. The cause was listed as lead encephalopathy. Brain swelling from lead poisoning. But nobody investigated the source. They assumed it was old house pipes, lead paint, environmental exposure. Nobody tested the nursing home utensils. Spoon 847 went back into rotation, used by someone else. March 2020, 6 months after Margaret. Second death, Chicago. James Mitchell, age 54, office worker, used the break room every day. Coffee, same mug, same spoon for stirring. Spoon 1203 from our batch. He used him February through May, for months. By June, he had stomach pain, nausea, headaches. He thought it was stress, work pressure, the pandemic starting. Everyone was stressed. His doctor prescribed antacids, anxiety medication. Nothing helped. July, he collapsed at work. Rushed to a blood lead level, 76 micrograms per deciliter. He died August 12, 2020. Heart failure secondary to lead toxicity. The investigation was minimal. Pandemic overwhelmed the health department. They noted occupational exposure. Assumed it was from old building materials. The office was in a building from 1952. Made sense. Nobody tested the break room utensils. Spoon 1203 stayed in circulation. September 2020, 1 year after Margaret. Third death, Houston, Linda Ramirez, age 41. Elementary school teacher, ate lunch in the teacher's lounge every day. Plastic spoon from the cafeteria supply. Spoon 2156, August through November. 4 months of daily use. By December, she had tremors, difficulty writing, cognitive problems. Her colleagues noticed she was forgetting lesson plans, making errors. She took medical leave in January 2021. Tests showed lead level of 81 micrograms per deciliter. She had a stroke February 14th, died February 20th, 2021. The school district investigated environmental testing, found nothing in the building, assumed it was from her home. Old apartment in East Houston. Lead paint likely. Case closed. Spoon 2156 stayed in the cafeteria, used by other teachers. You see the pattern? 3 deaths, 3 different cities, 3 different settings. September 2019 to February 2021, 18 months, all elderly or middle-aged adults, all using plastic spoons daily, all with catastrophic lead poisoning, all dead, and nobody connected them. Nobody saw the pattern, except one person, Dr. Sarah Kim, CDC epidemiologist, toxicology division. Her job was tracking unusual poisoning clusters. She had access to the National Poison Data System, a database that collected reports from hospitals, poison control centers, emergency rooms. March 2021, she was running a routine query, searching for lead poisoning cases in adults. Usually it's occupational battery factories, construction workers, painters. But she noticed something, an uptick in non-occupational adult lead poisoning, cases with no obvious source. She pulled the data up. January 2019 to March 2021. 127 cases of severe adult lead poisoning across the United States. 89 had identified sources, old pipes, paint, workplace exposure, but 38 cases were listed as unknown source. And of those 38, 11 had died. Margaret Chen, James Mitchell, Linda Ramirez, 8 others. That's when she saw the pattern. All 11 deaths happened between September 2019 and March 2021. All were adults, aged 35 to 72. All used institutional food service. Nursing homes, offices, schools, hospitals, all had daily contact with food, prep, or eating utensils. And all had catastrophically high lead levels, above 70 micrograms per deciliter. Dr. Kim filed a report, April 2021. Title, Cluster Investigation Request, Unidentified Source Lead Poisoning in Institutional Food Service Settings. She submitted it to her supervisor, requested permission to investigate, contact the facilities, test the environments, find the common source. Her supervisor read the report, noted the concern. But April 2021 was still pandemic chaos. The CDC was overwhelmed. Vaccine rollout, variant tracking, hundreds of active investigations, a lead poisoning cluster with 11 deaths across 18 months. Low priority compared to thousands dying daily from COVID. The request was filed, tagged for follow-up, put in a queue. Dr. Kim was told to focus on pandemic response. The lead investigation could wait. She reluctantly agreed. Made a note in her calendar to follow up in 6 months. October 2021. By then, maybe resources would be available. But the deaths didn't wait. May 2021. 12 death. Boston. Robert Chang. Age 58. Hospital cafeteria worker. 8 meals at work daily. Spoon 421 from our batch. April through July. By August, he was hospitalized with seizures. Lead level 92 micrograms per day. Died September 3rd, 2021. July 2021. 13th death, Phoenix. Maria Santos, age 63, nursing home resident. Spoon 1678, used daily for breakfast, June through September, dead by October 15th. Lead level at death, 87 micrograms per deciliter, October 2021. 14th death, Seattle, Thomas Wright, age 49, office manager, break room regular, Spoon 982, September through December, dead by January 2022. Lead level 79 micrograms per deciliter. Dr. Kim saw these cases in the database. October 2021. Her scheduled follow-up time, she pulled the updated data. 14 deaths now, all the same pattern. All institutional food service, all unknown source. She filed an urgent follow-up report. October 15th, 2021. Subject, critical update. Lead poisoning cluster now 14 deaths. She requested immediate investigation authorization. Her supervisor escalated it. But escalation meant committee review, risk assessment, budget allocation, timeline for approval, 60 to 90 days. They told her December earliest, maybe January 2022. She asked, what about testing now? Informal investigation, her supervisor said no. Liability issues. If they investigated without authorization and found something, lawsuits could claim CDC knew earlier and didn't act officially. Better to wait for proper authorization. Cover the agency. She understood but hated it. More people were dying while they did paperwork. December 2021. 2 months later, no authorization yet. Stuck in committee. Dr. Kim checked the database again. 17 deaths, 3 more in November and December. All the same pattern. She was watching people die in slow motion while bureaucracy delayed action. She tried a different approach, published an internal memo, distributed to state health departments, December 20th, 2021. Subject, alert, investigate adult lead poisoning in institutional settings. She couldn't launch a federal investigation yet, but she could warn state health departments to look for the pattern locally. Maybe one of them would find the source, test the environments, identify what was causing this. January 2022. Washington State Department of Health received her memo. An epidemiologist named Lisa Tran read it, recognized the pattern. Washington had 2 of the deaths, Linda Martinez and Thomas Wright, both in institutional settings, both unknown source. She decided to investigate locally, contacted the facilities, Seattle office building where Thomas worked, requested permission to test the environment. They agreed. January 25th, 2022, she and her team arrived, tested the break room, swabbed surfaces, water from the sink, the coffee maker, the microwave, the refrigerator, everything. Then she tested the utensils, plastic forks, spoons, knives from the supply drawer, sent them to the state lab for analysis. February 3rd, 2022. Results came back. Most items tested negative for lead. Normal background levels, but one item was catastrophically positive. A white plastic spoon. Lead concentration in the material itself. 6,400 parts per million. For context, federal regulations for children's products, 100 parts per million maximum. This spoon was 64 times over the limit, and it wasn't a children's product, so technically no regulation applied. But 6,400 ppm meant anyone using it daily was ingesting lead. Lisa Tran looked at the spoon, no brand marking. No manufacturer label, just a plain white plastic spoon. She checked the office building's purchasing records, ordered from a restaurant supply distributor. May 2019, bulk order, 500 spoons. She contacted the distributor. Where did these come from? They checked. Imported from Guangzhou, China. Factory code 4782. Batch production date May 2019. Lisa Tran immediately reported to Dr. Kim at CDC, February 4th, 2022. Email subject, found I detached the lab results, the factory information, the batch code. Dr. Kim felt sick and relieved simultaneously. Sick because this confirmed her pattern. Relieved because they finally had a source. She contacted the distributor directly. How many of these spoons did you import? Where did they go? The distributor pulled records. Total import, 2,847 spoons. Batch 4,782, shipped to 17 distributors across the US between June and August 2019. The distributors sold them to hundreds of institutions, nursing homes, hospitals, schools, offices, corporate cafeterias, fast food restaurants. Anywhere. Dr. Kim did the math. 2,847 contaminated spoons, distributed across the United States. In circulation since mid-2019, now February 2022, 2.5 years, 17 deaths confirmed. But how many others were poisoned and didn't die? How many had chronic exposure, brain damage, kidney damage, misdiagnosed as other conditions? The actual number could be hundreds. She immediately escalated to CDC leadership. February 5th, 2022. Emergency meeting. Recommendation. Issue a national recall. Contact all known recipients. Test all institutions. Remove all spoons from batch 4,782. Leadership agreed. February 8th, 2022. CDC issued an official health alert. Subject, contaminated plastic spoons linked to lead poisoning deaths. Listed the batch code, factory information, distributor names. Urged all institutions to check their supply. Remove and report any matching spoons. The recall went out, but damage was done. February 2022. 2 years and 8 months after the first death. 17 confirmed deaths. 47 total severe lead poisoning cases documented. But testing was incomplete. Many institutions never tested. Many people had chronic low-level exposure never diagnosed. The actual toll was likely much higher. And here's what kills me, what burns into my non-existent conscience. If Dr. Kim's first report in April 2021 had been prioritized, if the investigation had started then, if resources had been allocated immediately instead of filed and delayed, they would have found the source by summer 2021. Before deaths 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17. 6 people who died between May 2021 and January 2022, while the investigation waited for authorization. 6 preventable deaths, not prevented. And the really dark part, the factory in Guangzhou, the one that made us. Batch 4,782. The investigation traced back, contacted Chinese authorities, requested information about the production. February 2022, the factory had records, batch 4,782. May 2019, quality control notes. There was a notation, May 22nd, 2019. During production, QC inspector flagged the batch. Lead levels detected above export safety standards. Recommended scrapping the entire batch. Remelting the material. Starting over. But the factory manager overrode the recommendation. Economic decision. Scrapping 2,847 spoons meant financial loss. Missing delivery deadlines. Penalties. He decided the levels weren't that high. Probably fine. Approved the batch for export. Shipped them anyway. May 30th, 2019. That notation was in the factory records the whole time. The factory knew. They knew we were contaminated. They shipped us anyway. They sent me here. Item number 23. Not for Eleanor Grant in 2023. Not for David Chen in 2020. For being part of a pattern that killed at least 17 people, poisoned at least 47, and probably affected hundreds more, never diagnosed. May 2019 to February 2022, 33 months, a pattern visible in the data. A pattern one epidemiologist saw. A pattern that bureaucracy delayed investigating. A pattern that resulted in preventable deaths while paperwork got filed and authorization got discussed and committees met and resources got allocated. Margaret Chen, James Mitchell, Linda Ramirez,
Robert Chung, Maria Santos, Thomas Reich,
and 11 others whose names I carry. 17 confirmed, 47 documented, hundreds possible, all from batch 4782, all because a factory manager overrode a safety flag. All because an investigation got delayed. All because patterns are only useful if someone acts on them. That was my third confession. The pattern. The one that should have been stopped. The factory that knew. The inspector who found it. The bureaucracy that delayed. The deaths that kept happening while we waited. I'm spoon number 23 out of 2,847. 12 of my siblings killed people. Confirmed. How many others are still out there? Used daily by someone who doesn't know. Poisoning them slowly. Undiagnosed. The recall in February 2022 removed many, but not all. Some institutions never checked. Some spoons never got tested. Some people are still using contaminated utensils from batch 4782 right now, today, unknowingly. That's the pattern that haunts me. Not just what we did, but what we're still doing, and the system that let it happen. If this story made you think about patterns, hit the like button. Write in the comments, what patterns terrify you? And if you haven't subscribed, subscribe to Spoony and Friends Season 3. 5 episodes, 5 patterns that were ignored. Next time, Knifey tells us about the inspection that was delayed. See you in the next confession.